Hi guys, I've decided to kick off the first episode of our mine and John's question and answers show. Now I've had a question from a viewer called imat69, which is just appearing on your screen just there, and he's asked, basically he's got £800 to spend and he wants to know what to spend it on. He hasn't, it's a very general question, he hasn't said what he'll be using the machine for or what sort of machine, if he needs portability or not, etc. But what I've decided to do is cover the whole spectrum of things that I look at when deciding on a laptop or a desktop, and that comes down to four things. And the first thing is
random access memory.
Right, so what that basically means is everybody pretty much knows what RAM is anyway, so I won't go into that. But the gist of it is the more RAM you have, then the faster and the smoother your PC will run. Obviously the first main thing to think about is the fact that will you really need that much RAM? MacBook Pros, the standard configuration for those is now 2 gigabytes of RAM, which is a lot of RAM for most tasks. I mean, I've just ordered myself a MacBook Pro, and that was the standard configuration for me, and that just has 2 gig of RAM, but I intend to use CS3 with that. And I think that's more than enough RAM for most people, unless you're really doing video editing and a lot of multimedia work on it. So basically, the more RAM you have, the faster your PC runs if you're doing intensive tasks which take up a lot of RAM, like I said, video editing, image editing, basically if you're into a lot of professional production. But 2 gigs of RAM is more than enough for anyone. So yeah, the more RAM, the better, but if you don't need it, don't get it, because I think generally a RAM upgrade costs a fair bit of money. So 2 gigs of RAM is what you should be looking for a high-end PC. Number 2.
Central processing unit.
Everybody knows what a CPU is, basically the brains of the PC, the laptop, whatever you're using. Most things have CPUs, like mobile phones, calculators, everything electronical these days has some form of CPU that deals with everything processor-wise in terms of what's going on inside the actual system. The CPU on laptops they do range a fair bit, because although the MacBook Pros now, there isn't a huge difference. There's a 2.2 and 2.4 gig each. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's a 600 megabytes front side bus, which still doesn't match up to the actual bandwidth of RAM. So I think the bandwidth of RAM now is somewhere around 900. I'm just estimating numbers here, depending on obviously which RAM you have. But obviously if the CPU goes at 600 as it stands now, and the RAM's at 900, there's like a speed difference there, so you always lose a little bit of performance in the actual bus management, where the CPU has to stop a little bit and wait for each segment to catch up. But generally the faster the CPU, the better, although these days with multi-core CPUs it's important to have a lot of onboard RAM as well. Level 2 cache it's called, so I think every single processor that the MacBooks ship with is 4 meg of onboard RAM, which is incredible considering my PowerBook that I'm recording this on has 512 kilobytes of onboard L2 RAM, which is obviously nowhere near 4 meg. So yes, basically look for the onboard RAM that the processor has and the speed of the processor and the front side bus speed. And generally what I'd go for, if you're looking for a machine that's got a lot of future proofing to it and it's very, very fast, I would personally, if there's no price limitation that you go for, I'd go for the 2.4 standard configuration. Number 3.
Hard disk drive.
Yep, so everybody knows what a hard drive is. Gist of it is, the more hard drive space you have, the more you can store on your laptop or desktop. I think this is becoming increasingly more of an important thing because of the fact that when Leopard comes out around about October time, then they've got a new feature called Time Machine, which basically what it does is backs up all of your files on schedule whenever you pre-configure it to. And then basically if you accidentally delete a file, you can go into the folder where that file was and go back in time, which then searches the hard drive that an external hard drive that you attached to it. So hard drive space is becoming more of an issue in terms of backing up and keeping things safe and stored. So the bigger hard drive you have, the better, especially if you're doing any sort of photography work or videos and stuff, because videos high def now, especially because that's becoming more popular. That takes up a lot of room. So the bigger the hard drive you have, then the better generally. Last but by no means least, number 4.
Liquid crystal display.
So this, as everyone knows, is the screen on laptops and desktops. And there's 2 different types of LCD that Apple offer, at least, which are glossy and matte finish. The matte finish I would always recommend for anybody that's doing any sort of work which relates to any sort of design or video and things, because that represents the colour more accurately. In terms of a colour palette, it represents it more as it would be on most screens. The glossy, however, saturates the colour, so it looks much deeper than it actually would normally. So that's why a lot of professionals don't use glossy, they use matte because it represents the colour more accurately, as opposed to the entire market that everybody uses, because not everybody has glossy screens. And obviously if you're working for the internet and things, colour is important for websites and any sort of design really. So yeah, matte represents the colour better, and glossy saturates the colour. So if you're only using your laptop for any sort of other work other than design and things, I'd probably go for glossy because the colour is gorgeous, but not accurately represented in terms of the professional quality that a designer would need, or a video technician, or things like that. The other difference is resolution. All of the MacBooks across the line and I think the 20-inch, I could be wrong, have a resolution of 1440 by 900 pixels. The 17-inch MacBook Pro has an option to upgrade to a matte 17-inch screen, which is 1920 by 1200, I think. I'm almost right there, which is full high def, so that's 1080p on a 17-inch screen, which would be absolutely incredible if you can download a high def movie for yourself. So it's important to think about screen depending on what you're going to be using your laptop for. Matte for professional work, or if you don't want it to reflect a lot, if where you use your laptop a lot it's going to be really sunny, and glossy on the other hand for just general work and general use of a laptop, which is a really nice vibrant colour, but not useful for any sort of professional work. Yep, so to wrap up iMac69's question, I would suggest for you to go for the white MacBook because of obviously the portability of it, the 2 gig version, upgrade the RAM from 1 gig to 2 gig of RAM, and upgrade the hard drive from 80 gig to 120. I'm suggesting the MacBook because you could buy the iMac, the new 20-inch iMac, the lower model, for £800, although you'd be stuck with a gig of RAM, a bigger hard drive obviously, but you wouldn't have any sort of portability there. So I'd go for the white MacBook, which has a glossy screen, because you haven't said you're going to use it for any sort of professional reasons, and that would come in on the UK website at £830 delivered. So yeah, if you upgrade the RAM to 2 gig and upgrade the hard drive to 120, that will come out around £830 and should do exactly what you want, and it's a very powerful machine. It's pretty future-proof for the next 3 to 4 years. It's very nice as well. So I hope that helps, and any more questions, John and I will be happy to help. Thanks very much.